winter and the weather is crap. It sucks, it's dark, it's cold, it's raining. Sometimes I don't even feel like leaving the house. Even with something as simple and fun as going to a movie theater, winter has sucked the life out of it. But luckily, it's 2017, guys, and there's Vudu. V-U-D-U. That's Vudu. Vudu lets you stream movies anytime from anywhere, your phone, your iPad, your tablet, your laptop, and obviously on your smart TV, Xbox, and PlayStation, and things like your Roku or even your Blu-ray player. Get with the program, people. Forget the theater. You got people who won't shut up during the movie. People are hacking, coughing up a lung behind you. It's a mess. Vudu has over 100,000 movies and TV shows, including Beats, Rhymes, and Life. Maybe that sounds familiar to you. It should. I directed it. I'm so happy that my stuff is on Vudu. Yeah, I checked it out. So what? On Vudu, you get to rent and own just what you want. No monthly subscriptions, nothing to return, and no late fees. And it's free to sign up. All right, for a limited time, just for I Am Rapaport Stereo podcast listeners, Vudu is giving you 20% off your first movie or TV show with the code Rapaport. Just go to vudu.com, VUDU.com/movie credits. Vudu.com/movie credits. Enter in the code and bingo. The discount will be applied to your next purchase. Use the promo code Rapaport, R-A-P-A-P-O-R-T. Yo, the people have spoken. We are a 5-star podcast. We've even got soft-ass t-shirts to prove it. Anytime you hear something on the I Am Rapaport podcast that is 5-star worthy, go to iTunes and give us 5-star reviews. You could do it as many times as you want. Leave us a review. We see everything. Ask a question. Aiello us. Whatever you want. Hit up iTunes. Give us a review. The good, the bad, the indifferent, whatever you want. We want to take over iTunes. They still don't show us the love we deserve. This is the I Am Rapaport Stereo podcast. I'm very excited about this. I got a special guest. I'm going to gush over him first. I'm in here with my man, Big Ron Perlman.
Damn.
One of a kind.
Well,
one of a kind. Actor.
Until they can do better.
They can't do better. They're unduplicatable. From New York City. I'm just going to gush and then I'll be normal.
Truth. You don't mind if I just jump in every once in a while?
Oh, yeah. You could jump in as much as you want. It's the I Am Rapaport Stereo podcast. New York City's own.
This new medication I'm on, it's hard for me to shut up.
How many medications are you on?
I can't even tell. It takes me 20 minutes to finish taking the pills in the morning now.
I got so many different, and apparently you got a cough. We're going to have a phlegm off.
And I still got diarrhea. I don't know. I guess I'm taking one pill too few.
You're taking pills for diarrhea?
I'm collecting Social Security, man.
I hear you.
I got a pill for everything.
I got a lot of fucking pills, Ron.
Yeah.
I got a lot of fucking pills.
Anyway, you were
Ron,
gushing.
Don't
Let me.
All right, I'm just going to say this. One of my favorite actors, one of a kind, unduplicatable. Unduplicatable. That means there will never be another Ron Perlman. There's not a Ron Perlman type. That's one of the things that I love about this guy.
And you can all stop saying, thank God, okay?
Well, yeah, that may not be a bad thing.
Or you people out there in Pottsville, wherever the fuck you hang out.
They're all over the place.
Can I say fuck?
Oh, yeah, you could say fuck, shit, pussy.
Because I'm gonna get Aiello if I'm really lucky.
Yeah, if you're really lucky. But I don't think me and you, we could Aiello each other, other people.
I'm old enough to remember like when you got roasted at the Friars Club.
Yes.
And to me, the modern day equivalent to that is getting Aiello.
Well,
so that would be an honor.
Thank you. All right. Well, you got to do something bad, Ron. I can to get Aiello.
I have a catalog.
Of different shit. All right. Let me gush and then I'll be normal. City of Lost Children, Golden Globe winner in the 80s, which I can't even imagine what the Golden Globes were like back then.
They were heavier. The
award?
They were made out of pure solid gold.
Were they
24 karat gold. In fact, back then it was 25 karat.
Are you serious?
No, I'm not serious at all.
But you would think that maybe that's true. Like they're cheapening them out. They're hollow.
Yeah. Well, look who's winning them these days.
They're giving away like
they're giving them to anybody. It's like they're giving out Pez. It's like getting black belts.
Right.
Everybody gets one.
Anybody and every. It's like yeah.
You don't have to break wood. You don't even have to break wind. You get a black belt.
You get them. Son of Anarchy, the original Hellboy, and the rare, extinct Silverback Jew, Ron Perlman. is in the building.
Wow. What an honor it is to be sitting here with you, my dear friend.
The rare extinct silverback Jew. I mean, there's not many of us.
No, this is true.
It's a rare breed.
Once we go, that's it, folks.
I don't know if they're like...
That's all.
That's it. There's a cutoff point. And I don't know if we have to procreate, but the silverback Jew is a rare species.
Can you like, I mean, not that I don't know what a silverback Jew is, like who doesn't, right?
Right.
But would you mind, for those, on the West Coast here who are a little vapid,
Explaining?
Because they don't have seasons here. They just have biblical events like floods and fires and pestilence.
Right. When it rains here, it's like...
When it rains, it floods.
It's like the world's coming to an end in Los Angeles. And there's been a lot of rain.
Houses start sliding into the sea.
Yeah. Even just like a little sprinkle like it is today, like people are freaked out.
Freaking out, man.
The silverback Jew is this.
Okay.
In show business, particularly, and growing up in New York, my father who's like a duplicate of me, same size as me, but he always sort of like, I mean, he obviously loved Woody Allen, but he was like, he didn't like the stereotype of the Woody Allens, the Larry Davids, and these are all people I love and admire. But there's especially in show business, there's a stereotype.
The schlubs.
The schlubs.
Right.
And when you put that out in the world outside of New York and Los Angeles, people think that's what Jews are.
Right.
But that's not what all of us are.
No.
There are rare silverback Jews like Ron, and hopefully someday I could be considered in that category.
Oh God, are you kidding me?
So in terms of Hollywood, because the thing about, there's so many things about looks, and then there's Jews, and then even Sandler, who's great, he's awesome. Like even Ben Stiller, but there's like schlubbishness, and there's sort of like Jews in film, Jews in TV, Jews in comedy. It's always like the guy who's getting pushed around. So that's what I mean. Like, and your career as an actor is so unique and so one of a kind, and you sort of. How the fuck did you even want... You're a classically trained actor? And what does that mean to be classically trained as opposed to like just like no training and how much of your classical training do you still use to this day? And in all seriousness.
Well, come on, let's face it. I mean, when we're all writing our first resumes,
right.
There's a lot of bullshit on there, like
right.
Special skills.
Right. Could you juggle? What was some of your special skills?
I can make a hole in one at a miniature golf course. That was on my special skills, and classical training. Of course, I put that on there because I came up through New York, and I figured, I should say that.
But are you not classically trained?
I'm housebroken.
No,
that's about as far as it goes.
No, but as far as acting, like you studied, you went to school, you went to this school.
Let's put it this way: a lot of people accuse me of being classically trained, and I've never denied it.
Right.
But I'm not gonna comment further.
Okay. All right.
However, look, I started out in the theater in New York.
Right.
That was where it all started.
And this is in the 70s?
This is in the 60s.
Holy shit.
In high school.
And who are the actors at that time that are sort of your peers? Like, were there any cool...
Well, let's face it, I had no peers.
You had none.
Well, or the guys I'm going to mention, they had no peers.
I got you.
And I was no threat. But, I mean, I was lucky enough to come up in a time in life where there were so many motherfuckers walking the earth. I mean, I was alive when Humphrey Bogart passed away. And Clark Gable.
Right.
And Gary Cooper.
Right.
And Spencer Tracy was in his last throes in the first 15 years of my life, doing stuff like Guess Who's Coming to Dinner and Judgment at Nuremberg. So these guys were still at large and working, and they were vestiges of... and vital enough so that, and Burt Lancaster, who is my absolute, that's my...
Is that your guy?
Absolute favorite guy.
What about Burt Lancaster?
Man, I've never been asked to put that into some sort of cogent thought.
Like, what is it about, like, because there's different people, like different guys, like you mentioned these actors, everybody has their guy they relate to. What was it about Burt Lancaster that you say that's your guy? Look,
I'm as heterosexual as it gets.
Yes. So you say, I read things, the internet's, there's a lot of shit coming up, Ron. You talk about the 60s, you're
there
at
was an
the
incident
theater.
or two during grad school I'm not going to get into it. But with Burt, there was something about the way he moved, his swagger and everything that I'm a groupie. There's an audacity to him. There's a manliness to him. There's a confidence that he imbues to the viewer when you're watching him move through a role. And then there's this joie de vivre that comes out every once in a while that is singular. There's no other actor that could have been Elmer Gantry like he was Elmer Gantry.
Right.
You know, he just ate that shit up. There was no piece of scenery left standing when he got finished. And then he just does all this physical stuff. Like he started out as an acrobat, and so he's just, you know, nobody looked better pulling a gun out of a holster. Right. Nobody looked better walking down Boot Hill. Right. You know, the OK Corral. Right. And I don't know. And then on top of all that, he becomes a producer in a time when actors weren't known for being producers. Right. And starts a production company. And if you look at the body of work that came out of the production company.
What did he produce?
He produced Sweet Smell of Success. Yep. Trapeze, The Swimmer. He produced all stuff that would have been European art house films. Right. But he was doing them as a mainstream Hollywood star. Right. Who could choose what he was going to parlay his power and his leverage to do. He was doing like George Clooney shit. Yeah. Ben Affleck. I mean, Clooney to me was like sort of the revitalization of like actor, producer. Well, and then a lot of people started doing it. You know, there's... Michael Douglas did it with Cuckoo's Nest. Yeah. There's a whole little sub-genre of actors who I truly admire in a world where I'm absolutely obsessed with watching what people do with their fame and their power and their ability to pick and choose. Right. Very few of them get it right. Right, I agree. And Burt was one of the first guys. Kirk Douglas actually as well. They were like asshole buddies. They did 5 movies together. No mistake. But, you know, they both wanted to be more than movie stars. You know, they wanted to leave behind some sort of reflection of their own aesthetic. Mm-hmm. And with regard to Burt, if you look at these movies that I just mentioned, and I'm blanking on a lot of the movies that were produced by Hecht Hill Lancaster, which was his production company. But if you just take Sweet Smell of Success, which had Clifford Odets and Ernest Lehman as the screenwriters, and you had Alexander McKendrick and directing, and James Wong Howe doing this, you know, definitive black and white photography. And it was basically about a columnist, not unlike Walter Winchell, who had the entire world by the balls. I mean, he was the J. Edgar Hoover of columnists. Right. He kept a file on motherfuckers. Right. And Burt was warned, if you do Sweet Smell of Success, you're done in this town. And that just made him want to do it even more. For me, there's always like the big bang in acting. And it was James Dean and Brando. And they took what Burt, Humphrey Bogart, Cagney, all the guys and the girls. But as far as I'm talking about men, and since, because it's interesting you're talking about Burt being your guy, and then the naturalistic form of acting, Brando being the real sort of game changer. But it was Paul Newman was doing it, James Dean was doing it, where it became naturalistic. Because for me, a lot of times when I look at older films, I'm like, even what's the film? I just watched it again over Christmas. The Christmas. You watch it every year on Christmas. Not the Jimmy Stewart one. Yes. It's a Wonderful Life. It's a Wonderful Life. Little film. Tiny Capra film. But yeah, tiny little film. But I was just watching, and I'm like, this film, you know, like it's like I have to shift my brain because the style of acting, the style of filmmaking, it's prehistoric, but the acting itself, like you see the acting as opposed to when, you know, in the 60s,
the guys and all they were out of New York, Pacino, they shifted the whole thing and they took everything these guys and then it became this naturalistic thing. And, you saying you love Burt and being a New York theater guy and starting in that, was that something that was in the air or was it just something that was happening? Do you know what I'm saying? Was it something that was being talked about? Like, we're going to change this. We're going to make it more real. We're going to make it more genuine. We're going to make it more like, as opposed to acting. Do you know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's. I'm not well read enough, and I should be because I'm kind of obsessed with what you're sort of driving at and talking around right now. I'm very obsessed with that seismic shift where the narrative turned into something much more internalized and behavioral, which is what you're talking about.
Right.
And Brando and Montgomery Clift happened to be on the cusp of that as it was happening.
Right.
Then there was all this other stuff that was part of the environmental zeitgeist where a change was inevitable anyway.
Right.
Like the studios were breaking down.
Right.
Independent, everything became more like independently contracted.
Right.
The emergence of the auteur, the emergence of, and post-World War II, I don't know all of the events that led up to it, but there was a declarativeness. The focus was on storytelling.
Right.
Until the focus became kind of obsessed with idiosyncrasy and behavior and the anti-hero.
Yeah.
Like the guy who's the most fucked up guy is your hero. And that's when it became essential that the new generation of guys had to be in touch with their vulnerabilities.
Right.
And their flaws and their weaknesses, because that was what became the endearing thing that wagged the dog.
Right.
Whereas in the old days, like what I wanted to do on Turner Classic Movies one time is I wanted to do 5 war movies, and I wanted to do 2 from the 30s and 40s, and then the middle one would be Best Years of Our Lives.
Right.
And then 2 post 1950.
And what would be the 5? What would be the first 2?
Well, one of the first 2 would have to be Sergeant York. Okay. Because Mel fucking Gibson just fucking remade it as Hacksaw Ridge. Right. It's a story about a conscientious objector. Right. No, I'm not belittling Mel Gibson. Right. It should be the best picture of the year. It's a masterpiece. Right. But it's the second movie about a conscientious objector, and the first one was a motherfucker. It was Howard Hawks. It was made in like the 30s, I think, maybe 41. Just as we were getting into the war, but it was a big idea film, and the behavior wasn't the thing you walked away with. You walked away with the big idea of this guy who was dirt poor, who was like but who was imbued with some sort of patriotic, and it was these were the things that made the movie. Right. And the filmmaking had this sweep to it, this historic, epic sweep to it, big shots. Right. Where everything became close-ups post 50. Right. The second war movie I would pick, I don't know. It would, it could be any number of things. All Quiet on the Western Front or anything like this. Then there was Best Years of Our Lives.
Great film. If you've never seen it,
and it's a Best Picture. Yep. It was made in like 1948. Yep. And it's about guys coming home from World War II. 3 guys who spent a goodly amount of the war together, and who bonded in ways that only soldiers can bond. Right. And then the first 15 minutes of the movie is them on this cargo flight. Yep. Coming back. Yep. And they're laughing and they're carrying on. One of them has hooks for hands. Yep. He got an Oscar, that actor. The other one is Dana Andrews. Yep. And then the guy who was... we don't fact check at the I Am Rapaport Stereo Podcast, so if it comes back to in 40 minutes... Yeah. There's no fact checking. That's the beauty. One of the beautiful things. It's like you could say the wrong actor. No, but I'll
It'll come to you.
But anyway, And when they come back, it's the first time a movie examined the price.
Right.
The human price.
Right.
These guys are really damaged.
Right.
And assimilating is not even possible.
Right.
They didn't call it PTSD.
Right.
They didn't even want to dignify sentimentalizing it by even calling it anything.
Right.
It just was three guys who had no fucking chance.
Right.
At getting back to who they were.
Right.
Pre-uniform.
Right.
And all of a sudden, movies got psychological.
Right.
From that moment on.
You would say that movie was a shift.
I think that movie was the dividing line between the storytelling of the 30s and 40s, which was big scope, big idea, big narrative, and then it switched to behavioral and internalized. And I'm not particularly a fan of the switch, by the way, because I'm a fan of the big idea stuff, and I'm a fan of the John Fords and the Preston Sturgeses and the Frank Capras and you know, the guys. Yeah. Not saying that, you know, we don't have an incredible array of genius from 1950 to the present. Right. But it didn't change.
Yeah, no, it totally changed.
And you and me are like, we're part of the change.
Yes.
Now, getting back to what you originally asked me, I was born in 1950. So I was, you know, alive when Streetcar Named Desire was playing on Broadway. And
Did you see it?
Became a movie. No, I didn't see a Broadway show till I was 17. I had no money. My rich aunt had to take me to see Fiddler on the Roof. That was the first fucking show.
How old were you?
17.
And you were growing up.
I was already doing plays, and I still hadn't seen a Broadway
Where were you doing plays?
High school.
What high school did you go to?
George Washington High School in Washington Heights.
And you're from Washington Heights.
I am from Washington Heights.
Now,
and I'm not only from there, I'm of there.
I hear you. Explain what you mean.
I don't know what I mean.
But I'm going to explain what if Washington Heights. And
please explain it for me.
Ron could do it better because you grew up there. Listen, I don't know about that. Washington Heights is totally Latin now, right? Dominican.
No, not really, because the neighborhood my mom still lives in.
She still lives in Washington Heights?
Yeah, there's an enclave still.
Of old Jews.
Yeah.
That's fucking fantastic.
Not only that.
Explain where Washington Heights is, though, for people that aren't New Yorkers.
So Washington Heights is the George Washington Bridge side of Manhattan, which leads to Jersey. That area.
It's above Harlem.
Yeah. It starts at around 168th Street.
Right.
And it goes all the way to Inwood, which is about 190th Street.
Right.
And it goes from the East River all the way to the Hudson River. Right. So it's this huge block. And the reason why they call it Washington Heights is because at the peak of 186th Street and Fort Washington Avenue is the highest point in Manhattan.
I didn't know that.
There's actually you start climbing a hill.
Yep.
As you get to Midtown Manhattan and the pinnacle, and this is where George Washington and the troops waited for Burgoyne and the British.
Oh shit!
And they had a decisive battle. They were able to watch the Brits march up Manhattan, and then they kicked their motherfucking asses.
Kicked their fucking asses.
And here we are.
Yeah, because of that.
Couple of Jews.
Talking. But you're from Washington Heights, so there was an enclave. So because in 1950 you're born there. Mm-hmm. The neighborhood is what? What's the racial mix at that time, and what is it now?
Well, there were a lot of Holocaust survivors. Okay. So there were a lot of damaged Jews that were there. Okay. And many old people settled there and then started having families. So that's how I assimilated there. Got you. I had a grandma who escaped Poland and stuff. And they ended up in Washington Heights. And there were a tremendous amount of that, but there were also a great deal of Irish. Right. There were a lot of Italians. And then this new thing that started right when I was born, which is Puerto Ricans. Right. Which is how we got the show West Side Story. Right. So, you know, the Puerto Ricans became so inundative of all of Manhattan, but particularly certain parts of Manhattan. You know, they had the idea to like adapt Romeo and Juliet into West Side Story.
Now, so that's a fucking cool place to grow up. I mean, to me, like I always, you know, New York is so much of who I am. but old, like my father, he's 1933. He's from the Upper West Side. But like, I didn't grow up in a neighborhood that was like, had that eclecticness, and I always admire it. Like I always like envy it, like I always like wish part of me feels like, like I'm from that time, you know what I mean? Because it doesn't exist anymore. It's like the neighborhoods, I mean, now it's totally fucked up, but like to have like, you're around all the different people, all different kinds of people, but all working class people, I imagine. To me, I envy that. I think that's so fucking dope. Like, you speak Spanish?
No.
Like, you don't speak New York Spanish?
No. If I speak any Spanish at all, it's because of going to Mexico as much as I did with Guillermo. Right. But no, I didn't learn anything as a kid except how to run. I learned how to run away from shit a lot.
Was there a lot of shit going on up there?
There was a lot of shit going on, man. There was like any neighborhood in the world that has that kind of cross-section of ethnicities.
Right.
There's going to be tribal stuff. There's going to be territorial stuff.
Right.
And so the Irish hated the fucking... Can I say Spanish?
Yeah,
I mean,
it goes, especially this day and age.
Everybody hated the Jews.
The political correct police are at my fucking door right now.
Everybody hated.
They're gonna knock the fucking door. They're here right now.
Oh, I wish I could Aiello somebody.
Oh, don't worry, I'll get them.
Yeah, we get them for me.
I'll get them.
But anyway, everybody, there was always a tension. There was always a tension, and if you were Jewish, even if you were a big guy like me,
right?
And I wasn't, because I come from a Jewish background, fighting wasn't
right
in the menu.
That's just not our part of our thing.
It wasn't on the menu.
Right.
But if anybody needed to learn how to fight, or at least have a swagger,
right,
where fighting was like indicated, just as a defense mechanism. Like, come on, motherfucker, come on over here. I'll kick your fucking. Just to have that would have been good if you were a Jew.
You didn't have that when you were younger.
I have it now.
Now you have it. You play that.
No, but I mean, now I'm so pissed off about everything that
you're ready to go.
I'm at all times.
It's not good though. Me too. I almost had a fight right outside my door 2 weeks ago. Whatever. But I mean, I know what you mean, because there's so much sort of palpable shit and frustration. And as you get older, you sort of, I find myself sort of embracing what I like, what I don't like, the crotchety, the grumpiness, the fucking politics, which we're going to get into, Ron Perlman 2020.
Yeah.
All right, because I'm going to jump all over the place.
But the best thing that ever happened to me, just to put a capper on
old New York,
on the skills that you needed to grow up in New York.
Yeah.
Fighting would have been a good one.
Yeah.
And the best thing that ever happened to me was that there was this one Irish guy who sensed a weakness in me, and basically was picking me like a scab. And the more he picked at me, the more he realized, you're a pussy, you're a fucking pussy. And then one day he hit me as hard as he could in the head. And that was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Why?
Because it didn't hurt.
Because?
I found out I could fucking take a punch.
Okay.
And then all fear left me.
That's good.
And this guy looked at me like he hit me as hard as he could. Where did he actually connect? Like upside the motherfucking head.
You got a fucking head, Ron.
Yeah. But he hit me really hard, and I basically just went, And I looked at him, and he goes, oh, shit, he's going to kill me now.
Right.
No, I didn't hit him back.
Right.
But the minute you learn you could take a punch.
Right.
It's like a very seminal moment in a young man's life.
Right. Right.
Because then it's like, what's the worst they can do?
Right.
You're
gonna break your hand.
Yeah. Or go ahead, hit me.
Right.
Maybe I'll go down, maybe I won't.
Right.
So
and maybe I might hit back at some point.
It's kind of liberating.
Yo, I am so excited for NBA All-Star Weekend, and it's not what you think. The I Am Rapaport Stereo podcast is coming live to the Big Easy for NBA All-Star Weekend. Me and G Moody will be performing at the iconic Joy Theater in New Orleans Saturday, February 18th at 5:30, with doors opening at 4:30. Tickets are available at www.imrapaporttour.com or www.joytheater.com. You know what we do when we do live shows. You've heard them. If you're in New Orleans for the NBA All-Star Weekend, or if you're just chilling down in New Orleans and you're fans of the I Am Rapaport Stereo podcast, come see us live at the Joy Theater, Saturday, February 18th at 5:30 p.m. Doors open at 4:30. Go to www.iamrapaporttour.com. I love my Blue Apron meals. I'm back to cooking at home. I'm making great meals that are saving me money, time, and they are delicious. Blue Apron meals have variety. You could choose from a variety of new recipes each week, or let Blue Apron's culinary team surprise you. But whatever they send, it's going to be fantastic. Recipes are not repeated within a year, so you're never going to get bored. Each meal comes with a step-by-step, easy-to-follow recipe card and pre-portioned ingredients that can be prepared in 40 minutes or less. I'm doing it, so I'm sure anybody could do it because I'm not a chef, but Blue Apron has me feeling like Chef Rapaport. Blue Apron's freshness guarantee promises that every ingredient in your delivery arrives ready to cook, or they will make it right. Blue Apron can be delivered to 99% of the continental U.S. For those of you who spend a lot at restaurants or high-end grocery chains, you can now spend under $10 per person for a delicious meal at home at BlueApron.com. All right, now check out this week's menu and get your first 3 meals free. Okay, get your first 3 meals free with free shipping by going to BlueApron.com/Rapaport, RAPAPORT. Blue Apron is a better way to cook.
Welcome to Play It, a new podcast network featuring radio and TV personalities talking business, sports, tech, entertainment, and more. Play it at play.it.
All right, these are the questions that some of the fans wanted to ask. Hellboy 3, is that film happening? And this, I'm going to follow up. When did you realize Guillermo del Toro, like, did you know right away? Like, he's obviously, I don't throw this word around, genius level.
Yeah.
Did you know it right away? Were you like, what the fuck is this shit? Like, some of the films you've done are so unique. City of Lost Children is so, like, your body of work, the uniqueness and the eclecticness of it is, to me, I'd be like, suck my fucking dick. Like, you want me to, like, you know, I imagine sometimes some people still want you to come in and read because it's retarded, as if you haven't done, like, there's only one Ron Perlman. I'm going to do what I do. But you've broken out of what sort of stereotypes you might have been able to been put in because you're such a unique actor. And you've done such a unique body of work. I sincerely mean that. I mean, like, like, you know, Sons of Anarchy is like almost one of the straightest, in a weird way, things you've ever done. And I say straightest, you know, it's a fucked up character and it's a fucked up show, but it's like, you know, with Hellboy and City of Lost Children and Beauty and the Beast, I'm like, this is such a unique career. The shit you've done is so unique that, like, Sons of Anarchy, there's no makeup, there's no nothing. You're speaking English.
Yeah.
So Guillermo del Toro, I know I just sort of threw that around. When did you know, like, this was somebody like that was special? Did you know right away, or like, at first we're like, this guy's fucking nuts, some sci-fi weirdo?
Well, I had a feeling from the get-go, but then I've had feelings many times that ended up being disastrously wrong. But with Guillermo, I had this feeling that, like, he wrote me this letter out of the blue, and it was, I was a guy who actually thought I was invisible. I was a guy who thought that no one was noticing anything I did.
Okay.
Because nothing that I ever did had a cause and effect. I would just do shit, and then 3-4 years would go by before anybody called me to do anything else. Right. So there was no like momentum. There was no like, oh yeah, this guy was in this. Let's get him. You know. Right. So I had this, and then out of the blue, this letter comes, and it comprehensively goes over every move I've ever made. And it's this young Mexican dude who's never made a film before, who's begging me to consider reading a script and maybe coming on board. And the letter was, I still have it. It's handwritten.
That's cool.
It's gorgeous, and it's got so much love, and he truly was studying. And the reason why he was studying me is because by the time he wrote it to me, I had already had a body of work where I was behind a lot of the creations of these great makeup artists. I'd already been working with Chris Tucker out of England, and Rick Baker and Dick Smith and Stan Winston.
And on which things? On Beauty and the Beast?
On various things.
Okay.
On Beauty and the Beast, Beauty and the Beast, which was Rick Baker. Quest for Fire, Name of the Rose was Manlio Rocchetti, who won the Academy Award.
Right.
These were world-class special effects makeup artists.
Okay.
Guillermo, being a guy who made monster movies,
Right.
came to the United States to figure out how to make his own makeup for his own movies, because nobody in Mexico could execute the shit he needed. And in studying all this makeup stuff, he just, naturally came across all the stuff that I had done.
Right.
And he was like, Ron Perlman, this is your life. That's what the letter was like. This is like an homage.
What year is this?
It was a love letter. It was like 1991, maybe.
Okay.
And then I read the script, and it was a script for a movie called Chronos.
Right.
And it was the weirdest, most original, most unlike anything I'd ever seen vampire story. And there was an elegance to it.
Were you able to make sense of the script visually?
Oh yeah, no, the script was brilliantly written.
Okay.
Very easy to even see it. It was written incredibly well.
Did you know what I'm saying? Because like sometimes you read sci-fi, like for me, and I'm like, what the fuck? I don't know what the fuck this is. Like, what is this going to be?
Yeah, but it was beyond genre.
Okay.
It happened to be a vampire movie.
Right.
But it was also sort of like very philosophical.
Okay.
And it was talking about kind of Gothic. It had this big sort of Gothic kind of colorings to it.
Right.
And a real sophistication and a real elegance to the writing. And so because it was none of the things you would expect to read, it became essential that I had to meet this guy.
Okay.
He comes to the United States. We go have dinner at some restaurant on Wilshire Boulevard. And he's this heavy-set Mexican kid. In 5 minutes, it's like we knew each other for 30 years. But we start talking about the movie and the movie that he has in his head. I'm telling him what I see in the script. Nothing that I say is what he's going to do. Mm-hmm. He's telling me what he's going to do, and I'm going, holy shit, I never even imagined you were going to go here with it. And I'm listening to this guy to the point where I'm realizing I'm in the presence of somebody who doesn't think like anybody else.
You knew right away.
Well, I definitely knew he doesn't think like anybody else, but he also thinks like he was born to put images on the screen.
I got you.
Like there are certain guys who were just born to be filmmakers.
I totally understand.
And this guy was talking like he kind of blew my mind, because you don't expect to meet a guy like that.
Yeah.
Who'd never made a movie before.
He had never made a movie.
He'd never made a movie before.
But you just knew from the way he was speaking, he was special.
Yeah, I mean, he was painting a world that was, nothing that I could have, in my imagination, put together. This was something. This was coming from an imagination that was really singular and really original, and really didn't have any connection to anything that I had ever experienced before.
I got you.
So I said, okay, I'm in the presence of something here. I'm not sure what.
I got you.
Then we start doing the movie, and I get invited to watch dailies, and I realize from the way he's framing things and from the way scenes are playing that he's not making a movie. He's making cinema with a capital C.
Right.
And, he's like this is one of those guys.
Are you like, fuck, how lucky am I? Because, everybody wants to find somebody that thinks you're the shit, that gets you, and he obviously got you, and he's, and then, which is flattering. And as a younger actor, you're younger then, you're like, I got a guy who thinks I'm great, and, he's open to me, and then you see him and you're like, holy shit, this is, are you like, what the fuck? Like, how lucky am I? Like,
Yeah,
to be.
it was very much like that. And then the friendship that developed, there was a real closeness. We had a couple of incidents in the course of the movie that just drove us even more in love with each other. Really realized, he's got my back, I got his back, and it just made us more than collaborators, more than director actor, like bros, you know?
Right.
So that when it came time to do Blade, he found a role for me in that. And then, you know, he let me know that he had this other thing called Hellboy that the studio was throwing all these names at him, and he kept throwing Ron Perlman's name back. And it took him 7 years, but he finally got that made the way he wanted, which was with me.
And you get this. I mean, this is such a, again, this is like, what the fuck? You're like this New York Jew. You're this actor, and it's like this movie. Like this, what I'm saying. Like you broke out of like stereotypes. Like you're not even playing like Gavones. Like I'm sure you've done this TV act.
Gavone. You're the only other guy besides my best friend, rest in peace, Burton Levy, who was the godfather of both. Is that actually a word?
I'm not sure. It's definitely some fucking. I think it is a word. But
only New Yorkers.
It's the New York word.
Yeah, Gavone.
But it means like you're not playing like Joe Show, Thug 2 and Goon this and this. Like,
but if you say that to any Italian outside of New York,
no, they're
gonna go. Get cosified. What the fuck? So it's a New York word. God bless you for using the word Gavone. I haven't heard it since my dear friend.
But it's a totally New York word.
It's a totally New York word.
But I mean, this is something I just admire because you broke out of all these stereotypes of what your career could have been, what would be just the typical sort of New York guy. Like you could just be like New York, and you find this guy and these parts that are just out of that typical thing. And I think it's just so cool. But you get this film Hellboy, like, did you know that was special? Like when you're reading this, but at this point, Guillermo you're working with high level shit, and right?
Not only that, but after Chronos, with all of the little problems it had, finally finding its way to the world,
right?
It gets invited to competition in Cannes Film Festival. They have like 3 different. They have the big prize, the Palme d'Or,
right?
Then they have A Certain Regard, and then they have Critics Week,
right?
And it got invited to participate, I think, in Critics Week, and it won.
Right.
So Guillermo immediately vaulted to a place where the world was. He put the world on notice. There's a new guy in town.
Right. And you're his fucking guy.
Well, I happened to be there from the beginning.
Which is, that's special.
But it was very special. It was really special watching, having that moment the day I was watching dailies, and I turned to the other people in the room and I went, "This is not an ordinary filmmaker. This is a guy who he has you look at a frame of David Lean, and you go, there's only one guy who could actually put that frame on screen.
Yeah.
And then you look at a frame of Kurosawa and you say the same thing.
Yeah.
Coppola has that.
Yeah.
Well, Guillermo is in that group.
Yeah.
He's a guy who you just look at his framing.
Yeah.
And you go, he's not pedestrian, and this is not random. He's painting. He's painting like a great impressionist painter, but he's doing it narratively, which is what makes cinema so unique. You don't realize he's painting because you're swept into this world and this story and this behavior.
Is he doing things on the fly? How much preparation is it to get a frame, to get a shot? Obviously, when you get into technicalities and CGI and that stuff, but just in terms of like when he gets on a set and you're doing a scene and we're shooting a scene here, how clear is he? How much is fluid? How much is in the moment, or is it a little bit of both?
It's huge amounts of pre-production, huge amounts of thinking about what style he's going to employ just visually for each film he does.
Right.
Huge amounts.
Okay.
Here's the genius part, though. Like, Mike Rapaport shows up on set and says, I got an idea. Uh-huh. And
I say I got an idea to him.
And he goes...
I say, Guillermo, this is what we're going to do today.
No, you don't say that.
No, I know. Okay, but I'm just...
you might say that.
No,
it'd be the last time you say anything to him.
I fucking think I'm crazy.
But you say, hey, listen, could you listen to this? I think this is pretty cool.
I was at your exhibit here at the... what was it,
at
the Mocha?
LACMA,
Yeah, at LACMA. I was at LACMA, and I was thinking, Guillermo, check this out. This is what we're going to do today. Because
No, but you say I was up all night, man. I got to share this with you,
right?
And you tell it to him, and if he digs it, he'll change his whole day around and accommodate that idea.
If he believes in it, and it makes
if he thinks that's a better idea than the one he was going to shoot, I've seen him do it, and that's another thing, that puts him in a different kind of weight class.
Break it down, because I know where you're going with that.
But I know, most guys, when they come up with a plan, they don't want to, there's room for a little collaboration.
Right.
But they're not going to fucking change their shot list or change their whole approach to how they're going to shoot this particular scene or moment because some asshole comes up with a fucking different idea.
Right.
But he will.
Right.
And he has and he does. And then on top of that, he turns it into a Picasso.
Right.
There's so many aspects of what I do that I love that it's impossible for me. I could spend the rest of my life enumerating the things that I love. But there's nothing about the process of making movies that's more unique than the collaboration of it.
Right.
Because, and this was the greatest epiphany I've ever had, and this is not the first podcast I will share this story on.
All right.
But this is the most...
Well, it's the best podcast. Maron and the other guys are fantastic.
This is the most recent.
Okay, good.
I don't know if I ever shared this on any podcast, actually.
Good. Give me the good shit,
No, I wrote
Ron.
this in my book. This is in my book. I'm on a cliff 20 kilometers outside of Rome.
Okay.
It's 1982. And I'm on a set of this movie, but I'm not in the scene that they're about to go shoot. And they're trying to get a shot at magic hour. Now, magic hour happens twice a day. It happens at dawn and it happens at dusk.
And it's actually an hour.
And it's actually less than an hour. It's about a 20-minute window where the light is different than any other part of the day.
And on sets, when they're trying to do that, it's very tense because a lot of times they'll arrange the whole day to shoot this 20 minutes to get something very specific, very quote unquote magical.
And
you have
to be ready to utilize every one of the 20 minutes that you have, where you actually get the magical light.
Right.
When they know that they're going to go for a shot at magic time, at magic hour, the whole day is planned around. We stop what we're doing at 4:30. And we prep for that shot.
Right. You got to know your lines. There can't be any fucking... It's like live TV.
Because at 5:10, we have to be rolling. And by 5:26, we've lost the light.
The party's over.
So I'm on a set of a movie called Name of the Rose. Mm-hmm. And Jean-Jacques Annaud, Academy Award winner, is directing. Janina Delacoli, Academy Award winner, is lighting. Sean Connery, Academy Award winner, is starring. Mm-hmm. Production designer. Frederick March, by the way, is the other star of Best Years of Our Lives.
Yep.
But now I can't remember the name of the production designer from Name of the Rose, but I will in a minute.
All right, we'll get to that. That'll pop up 12 minutes.
Multi-Academy Award winner.
Right.
Then there's a woman who's doing costumes, 5 Academy Awards. And I'm on a hilltop, dressed in 16th century garb. Uh-huh. As a hunchback, and I'm made up the wazoo, right? And I'm watching 400 people, half of them who have Academy Awards in disparate art forms.
Right.
One of them is a painter, one of them is a seamstress, one of them lights photography,
right.
One of them directs. And they're all running around like they're in kindergarten, trying to get this moment that happens from 5:10 in the evening till 5:26 at night. And I'm watching them run around, and they look like 6-year-olds.
Right.
They like have, they have food that they're dropping on their clothes.
Right.
They're burning themselves with cigarettes while they're trying to do 15 things. I mean, they're just a fucking mess.
Right.
But they're the most sophisticated motherfucking artists on the planet.
Yeah.
The best at what they do. And they're all trying to go for one moment of a 135-minute film. Mm-hmm. And I'm going, if this ain't the greatest way to make a living that I've ever seen, and it's different from theater, it's different from TV, it's different from everything else because it's the most elite, and it's beyond. There's no adulthood to it.
I got you.
It's all childish, imaginative, unabashed, just pure enthusiasm and like,
I got you.
and everybody's on this one page, and it's all being filtered through one sensibility, which is the filmmaker, but everybody's using these, and
It's a high, right?
So this is what I mean when I say collaboration. I don't throw the word around like this is a real privilege.
Yeah.
To be witnessing that form of the artistry all being utilized in all these disparate ways to come up with something that you hope is going to be watchable.
Right.
And no one even knows.
You have no clue.
Nobody even knows. I've been in a million movies where the same shit I'm describing to you happens, and the movie is a piece of shit. You can't watch 1 second of it.
Right.
You want to kill yourself.
Right.
You did it.
Right.
So you don't ever know, but you go into every one of them hoping. Right. So when I mention collaborating, like what I was talking about with Guillermo, when I say I have this idea, and he actually takes the time to listen without being fearful that it's going to just fuck up his day, that somebody threw this monkey wrench into his plan. So he has enough security in himself,
right,
to know that he can still go with somebody else's idea, and it won't. If it makes the movie better, that's the only thing that matters. So he's adult enough to be that guy.
Right.
He's also smart enough to know a better idea than his own when he hears it.
Right.
And he's also adaptable enough to turn somebody else's idea into his own and make it maybe the best moment in the movie.
Right.
That's collaboration.
Right.
And I've seen that very rarely I've seen it probably more than a lot of actors, because I've just been doing it so long. But it's a beautiful thing when it happens.
Because you have that in your pocket and you have experienced that, and it's such a rare thing. And I know we're talking some artsy fartsy shit. When you're on season 2 of Sons of Anarchy, or season 1, episode 9 of another show, and Anarchy, I don't know if thing, but directors come in, there's different directors, and you get a director who's clearly not listening to you, not, respecting you, not collaborative, puppeteering you, telling you to hit marks and all shit. At this point, how do you deal with that? As now that you've had that beauty, you've had these moments, a bunch of them, and you've worked with a guy who's a director, a filmmaker, who's had a fucking actual exhibit, Guillermo del Toro, in a fucking museum. Right. You got to think about that.
Right.
The motherfucker, there's a lot of dope filmmakers, but there's a handful. Kubrick had one.
Right.
Tim Burton had one, but then
this,
you're this person's guy or one of his main guys, and then you're on season 2 and fucking schmucko directors coming in telling you to do on your show, or even a show that you're guest starring in. How do you go fuck you? Do you listen? Do you not listen? Or are you combative? Or are you just okay, and then do it your way? Do you know what I'm saying? When they put the handcuffs on you. Because I can't fucking stand it. I don't understand it either, that why would they put handcuffs on Big Ron?
No, but...
Or any actor.
If you'd asked me this 10 years ago, you probably would have got a different answer than I'm going to give you now. Because I'm trying very hard to, the best advice I was ever given was by this PA, this young girl who was running base camp on this disastrous movie that was the most disorganized piece of shit Amateursville thing. And that's saying a lot, because I've been on a lot of really, really disastrous piece of shit, disorganized Amateursville thing. But this was the number one. And this girl who was running base camp, poor girl, had to give me bad information every day.
Right.
6 times a day.
And she's just a young girl trying to find her way in life.
And she had to give me this information, knowing that it was going to piss me off, knowing that it was wrong, knowing that she was completely steering me down the garden path where there was no... But she had to give it because she's on the radio and she's the lowest in the food chain.
Right.
So she had to be the one to deal with my reaction.
Right.
On the last day, when they wrapped me and they finally, said, okay, you can go home, Ron, I said goodbye to everybody on the set. The last person I said goodbye to was her, because she's standing there by the car that I'm going to get into and drive away. And she said to me, can I give you a piece of advice? And I said, sure, darling. And she loved me, and I loved her.
Okay.
But she saw some dark shit. and she says to me, try not to be yourself so much.
Oh, shit.
And I came back and mentioned that to my family, my wife and my kids, and they said, that's the best piece of advice you've ever gotten.
Yeah, I'm going to take heed to that.
But when that guy appears on the set, if he's a really sweet, nice guy,
right,
I will say, you probably want to, how about we do it this way?
Right.
If he's a dickhead,
right,
and he's walking around with like big swinging dick, and
right,
he's like the guy, and
right,
like, you know what else I've directed? I will eat this motherfucker's lunch.
Right. How? Like just break his will you stay on him?
No, I'll make it like I don't have time for this to be a process.
Right.
I'm going to tell you right now what the fuck you're doing is not going to, we're not going 1 minute past this like this. Okay?
Right.
So now it's time for you to shut the fuck up and get the fuck out of our way.
Right.
And they usually begin to quake.
Right. Right.
I don't get off on.
No,
I don't look forward to doing that. I hate to do it.
Yeah.
But if somebody walks on a set, and for me the set is kind of like church.
Right.
And they take a dump.
Right.
On in my church.
Right.
They got to get straightened out.
Right. Do you get concerned about, they're going to say Ron Perlman's difficult? Because I know like you don't want to do that. You don't want to be, because I'm asking you because I deal with it a lot too, and I'm actually just dealing with it recently, and I'm trying to find like the most diplomatic, constructive way, but sometimes it's like, it's just, what the fuck, man? Like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah.
Like, what do you want me to fucking do? Like, why am I here? Like, and I know, again, like, people like, you sound like two fucking whiny fucking bitches, but I'm just talking about the creative process. Do you get worried about, like, well, he's difficult, he's a pain in the ass to deal with? Like, does that cross your mind, or at this point, you're like, fuck it?
No, at this point, I'm like, fuck it. Because pretty much I never pull that card out unless they got it coming. Mm-hmm. And I also feel as though it's justified because time is of the essence on a movie set, or especially on a TV show, because you're shooting so much per day. Right. And if somebody walks on there and they're ready to like fuck up everybody's biorhythms, that needs to be stopped. So I actually feel like by doing what I do, I'm doing the show a service. Right. I try to not be cruel. Right. But if the guy's a fucking asshole, he's an asshole. Right. But yeah, I mean, there were times in my life before I was the Silverback Jew, where I paid a heavy price for opening my mouth. Right. And I did get, I probably did have people talking about what a fucking dickhead this is. Right. Who the fuck does this guy think he is? Because I've always had standards that I followed that I felt like, this is the way it should be done. Right. And the minute you have an opinion like that, but you're in the sandbox, somebody's going to go, stay away from him. Right. He's trouble, Right. And every great actor I know, probably including Meryl Streep, probably somebody is walking around going, what a fucking, Listen, you come across so many fucking people in show business, there's, 60, 50, could be 100 people on a gigantic movie. Not everybody's going to like you. No. And it's certainly some actors are, but if you have a disposition, like, I just don't think everybody's going to like you all the fucking time. And if you try to make everybody like you all the time and you do that, God bless you. But I know a lot of people who do. I know a lot of people who will do anything to not make waves. And I don't particularly respect those people that much. I hear you. I really want to know, like, what are you really feeling right now? Right. And maybe we can channel this into some good shit here in the movie, Right. Can I pause for a quick second? Yes. I just want to point out to the listening audience before I forget that you and I are in a movie together. Yes. Which has not opened yet. Liev Schreiber. I don't know if you've seen it. I haven't seen it yet. The Bleeder. I've seen it. It's a story. It's a boxing movie about Chuck Wepner. And although you and I have no scenes together. None. And you did your scenes on a completely a day where I was not nowhere near the premises and vice versa. Yep. I did see the movie. Yes. I heard it's really good. I like the movie a lot. I'm a big fan of Liev. I think he's a really talented dude. Silverback Jew. Young Silverback Jew on the rise. Naomi is fantastic in the movie. And I will think of the other girl.
It's a great cast. Chuck Webner, if you don't know, is like he's like the real Rocky.
Yeah.
And you know, he accused, and a lot of the movie is about the ramifications of him sort of going crazy from the movie Rocky. It's not the life and times of Chuck Webner. He fought Muhammad Ali, and it's one of the things. It's not the total reason, because I'm not going to discredit Stallone. It's one of the reasons, one of the ideas that spawned Rocky.
Right.
And after he saw it, and after he saw Ali, that him seeing that movie sort of made him crazy.
Right.
Made him go nuts.
And that's very much part of the storytelling,
right? Which is a cool way. It's not a biopic. It's not like, oh, I got my first pair of gloves.
But it's a good movie. It's coming out soon, and it's the first time I get to share the screen with Michael Rapaport, and you play Chuck's brother.
Yes.
And you have not seen the movie.
No.
I'm telling you, you're wonderful.
Oh,
in the
thank
movie.
you.
I mean, really, really, you have a couple of scenes, the second of which will just. I'm tearing up thinking about it.
Shit.
It was very moving because the relationship between these two brothers is really abrasive and like most abrasive relations, they are that way because of how deep the feelings go. And that's beautifully played by you and Liev. In fact, he doesn't even say anything in the second scene. It's all you. And it's great.
Oh, cool! I'm looking forward to seeing it. I was like, when they asked me about it, because I've known the story, because Rocky was like, that was like my movie.
Yeah.
Like I saw that when I didn't want to be an actor, but I was just like, that was like, I wanted. It just it changed my whole. I mean, everybody.
Yeah, that's a masterpiece.
Of course. The I Am Rapaport Stereo podcast is sponsored by Casper Mattress, an obsessively engineered mattress at a shockingly fair price. You could try a Casper mattress for 100 nights risk-free in your home. If you do not love it, they will pick it up and refund you everything. With over 20,000 reviews online and an average of 4.8 stars, Casper is quickly becoming the internet's most popular mattress. They have sheets, they have pillows, they even have doggy beds. Go to Casper.com, save $50 towards any mattress purchased by visiting www.casper.com/Rapaport. Use the promo code Rapaport. Try a Casper mattress 100 nights risk-free in your home. If you don't love it, they will pick it up and refund you everything. Go to www.casper.com/Rapaport.
Welcome to Play It, a new podcast network featuring radio and TV personalities talking business, sports, tech, entertainment, and more. Play it at play.it.
All right, I'm going to rattle off questions. Hellboy 3, is it coming?
I just don't have anything more to add to that. About 2 weeks ago.
Do you get asked this all the fucking time?
All the time. And, sometimes it's dead, sometimes it's alive. Right now, it's a little bit alive again, but I'm not going to say very much alive again because Guillermo tweeted something the other day asking the fans whether they wanted to see it. And he got this avalanche of a response.
They said yes.
Yes. So it's back in discussions again. But I'm not going to. I don't know.
What's the longest amount of time that you've ever sat in a makeup chair? Because you've done these fucking films and TV with the makeup and the prosthetics. I don't know how, especially if like your disposition, I would be like, just getting normally made up for 15, 20 minutes. I'm like, just get me the fuck out of here. Like, how are you able to do that? Like, you're sitting there for how long? What's the longest process? Like, what was the most arduous show that you did or film that you did with the makeup?
Well, the longest day was 12 hours.
Where you're sitting down getting the shit done.
It took me 12 hours before I was able to. It was the first day of Name of the Rose.
Okay.
And the scheduling was really fucked up. They should never have scheduled this particular scene on my first day. But I play a hunchback in the movie. So not only did they have to turn my face into like very similar to Charles Lawton in his Hunchback movie, but in this particular scene, they whipped me.
Right.
Shirtless.
Okay.
And they had to put the hump on.
Okay.
Which was a one-time only thing.
Right. So you have to see the actual hump on your skin.
So they spent 8 hours getting my face right because they'd never done it before. what takes 8 hours the first day ends up being like 2.5, 3 hours once you get the hang of it.
Right.
And then they had to put this hump on, and it had to blend perfectly into my own back.
Right.
Because there's close-ups of me getting whipped, and that took another 4.5 hours.
Right.
So we only had like 40 minutes to shoot the scene.
Right. And you got all this shit on.
Yeah. But that was a one-off. There were days on Hellboy 1 and 2 where I was shirtless. Those days took around 6.5 hours to get made up.
Because it's top to bottom.
Because you do the face has to be, I mean, the way Guillermo's shooting it, he's got the camera like right, inches away from you.
Right.
So it can't look like makeup.
Right.
So the just putting the face on, the head on is arduous. And then when he had these shirtless scenes, it was the same thing. Everything had to blend in perfectly and not look like makeup.
Do you get because
and he's one of these guys. Other guys would be CGI.
Right.
They would just shoot me. I'd have a whole bunch of like pins in me.
Right.
And then they would put the stuff in post-production.
Right.
Which is cheating.
Right.
But Guillermo, it all has to be practical and it all has to be alive in real time and in nature.
He's the real deal.
Because he feels as though the minute you do something that's completely manufactured, you're kind of putting a wall between the viewer and what they're looking at.
I got you.
And I agree with that.
What's the craziest Hellboy fan lunatic that you've dealt with? Because when you that kind of film and that kind of cultness and fanaticism, I imagine, what's the craziest like one incident, fucking guy where you like, I got to call the authorities? I'm sure it's come across specifically from Hellboy, maybe Sons of Anarchy. I mean, you've done these things that like they're very culty. Not that there's like that. I'm saying like I could see the fans being culty. What's the craziest thing from Hellboy that you've dealt with? Is it a guy? Is it a girl? Is it a group of little kids showing up at your door? Like, what's the craziest shit you've dealt with it from a fan in regards to that one of those films that you've done?
Hellboy, not much, but
really,
Beauty and the Beast, which was the very first time that I did anything that was kind of mainstream, because that was on CBS primetime. And the Beast became, because he was an outcast.
Right.
And because he was prevented from living a normal life because he was a freak.
Yes.
He touched off a lot of responses by people who had really low self-esteem. Some people who had real serious, like, big-time problems, health problems and stuff. He became a symbol.
And they're relating to the character.
And they're really relating. And the mail that I started getting, and it was the first kind of mainstream thing I ever did. So I read every single fan mail. I responded to it. I answered it.
Right. I
had to stop because people were involving me in these nightmarish scenarios in their own, that they were living through in their own lives. And I would get emotionally involved, and I would start caring about these people, but then there were a few people who couldn't separate. I don't want to dignify the stalkers by getting into too much detail. Suffice it to say, there were police involved and everything like this.
Right.
But people would show up at the front door. People would show up in my house. People would show up.
Holy shit!
And
that's scary.
Some people still do.
Fuck. I hear you.
Don't take no for an answer.
Right.
And
that's scary.
Yeah.
And you're like, I'm just fucking Ron. Remember, I'm just Ron from Washington Heights. I'm just like, Sons of Anarchy is another, like, again, to me, and like I think about all the things you've done, the straightest fucking thing. And then you're like, Sons of Anarchy is straight. But in the Ron Perlman career, it's sort of straight. There's no makeup.
Yeah.
That's another one that created like this stir, this cult. You're dealing with the underbelly. I heard as an actor, I'd hear around town, fucking guys would be getting into fights on the set. Craft service people would be fighting other craft service people. People are throwing cameras. Like, I heard that set, the making of that show, like, I remember one day I was like, what do you guys, I thought I heard like two people talking about like a fight, like a gang fight. And I was like, what are you guys talking about? Overheard them at lunch. Sons, I was like, this is on a TV show? Oh, yeah, they fight every day. I was like, actors are fighting each other all the time, every day. Actors are fighting each other. The creators fighting actors. It was like it sounded like it was like a crazy house. But yet it was a successful thing. What was, without going into too much detail of the show, and what was the reality of making that show? What was the Kurt Sutter of it all? And were people actually fighting each other on this set? Like, it sounded like a fucking nut house.
Oh, wow. Where do I begin? Where do I end? It was never quite as you described, but there was a basis for why it turned into like this fish story. Where, you catch a fish that's 6 inches, and by the time you tell the story, it's 4.5 feet.
You've heard this before about this set, right?
Heard it. I lived it, bro.
Right.
I mean, there were fisticuffs on occasion. There was a lot of testosterone.
Right.
There was a good deal of tension a lot of the time, a lot of it coming from the top.
Okay.
And without going into a great deal of detail for legal reasons and for a lot of other reasons where, I'll get back to this in a second. Mm-hmm. But the story I told you about collaboration being my favorite thing in why this means to me what it does, that didn't exist on that show. And for a guy like me, and not just me, but there were a whole bunch of other veteran actors like me who were used to a certain degree of, now we're acting this. This is ours now.
Right, I'm the character.
To bring to life. There comes a certain point where, you got to let me run with it.
Right.
And maybe not. They're paying you. You got to live by their rules. But that doesn't make it any easier when you are not supposed to be the guy driving the bus.
Right.
Because relinquishing control is not what we're here to do. Right. And that was an assault on my sensibilities for 6 years.
Damn.
Here was a tightrope walk. I loved the guys
that you worked with, the actors.
I loved being Clay Morrow. I loved the fact that every year we were breaking not only the records of The Shield, which was the other show at FX, the only other show at FX that got any attention. Right. We started shattering their records, and then year after year, we shattered our own record. Right. To the point where we were like a juggernaut. I loved that. I loved being part of that. None of those things were things I could walk away from easily. The adulation, the success, the mainstreaming, element of it, because most of my career has always been kind of fringy. Right. And art housey. Right. This was like straight, fastball straight down the middle. Right. And it was, so those things that were niggling at me. Right. I would go to myself, shut the fuck up, man. Stop bellyache and look what you have. Look at all the great shit you have. But suffice it to say, it created an environment that was somewhat toxic. And if you heard stories about fisticuffs, which were probably multiplied tenfold from what actually happened. I mean, it wasn't that bad. Right. There was an awful lot of love and hugging and kissing and, guys hanging out and drinking and partying and, and officiating at each other's christenings and, baptisms and, like real esprit de corps. Right. But there was also this toxicity that we had to maneuver our way through, and navigate our way through. And it taught me a great deal about what I will tolerate and what I won't, and what I will do for my family and for paying the rent. Right. And
shit, man.
Yeah. I mean, it brought me right to my limit of what I could tolerate.
Was it just like being told what to do, or the way it was being told what to do, or all of it, all of the above? Like, because that sounds like that's fucked up, because it's like the show is so adored and so loved, and there's this success, and then you're like in a goddamn, emotional war, sometimes physical war, over a TV show. And then like you look at like, what real life is, and, real health is, and real health issues, and, real world problems. I'm sure it's a conflicting thing. Like, cause you're like,
because I mean, who might have ever fucking complain about anything, or even give the slightest inclination that anything that I'm doing is a problem, compared to, like, you look around and you just look at, just the realities of so many of our brethren.
Right.
And cistern, is that a word?
Yeah, cistern. You're asking me? Because you've thrown some fucking good words at me, Ron.
But anyways, that's the other thing. I just never want to give the impression that this was anything other than the greatest blessing that was ever bestowed on me. Mm. But even so, life is not black and white. I mean, life has... there's 24 hours in the day, and you got to get through them. I mean, look at Sinatra, man.
Right.
Whatever gets me through the night. Well, you're sitting on top of the fucking world, and you have a 22 next to you, and you don't know when are you gonna put it in your mouth because of this Ava Gardner stuff.
Right.
So it's not black and white.
Right.
You could be in the greatest, like, most privileged place, and still having to navigate through it in areas that you weren't kind of trained for.
I got you.
I wasn't trained to be political. I wasn't trained to be popular.
Right.
These are things you have to learn how to do in order to, like. This is really going to sound fucked up. Uh-huh. But failing in show business is easy compared to succeeding.
How so?
Because the minute you are a success, your problems get so complex. Mm. First of all, you now have something to lose.
Right.
Which the way you got the success was by having nothing to lose.
Right.
So you had this spirit of adventure. You have this spirit of fearlessness. You have this, I got nothing to lose, man.
Right.
I'm really going to I'm going to Aiello everybody.
Right.
And then you get there, and you suddenly have a bank account that and a nest egg that you're trying to protect.
Right.
And all of a sudden, your choices start getting more and more safe.
Yeah. And
your behavior starts getting more and more, like, non-committal.
Right.
And you're picking friends differently.
Yeah.
And you may have a different dynamic with family members. Yeah. This is all things that come with people will start looking at you differently.
Right.
Which makes you have to look at the world differently.
Right.
All this stuff comes with success. It's very, very hard thing to navigate.
Right.
And you've seen story after story after story after story in every field in the world where there's success of people fucking it up.
Yep.
And I'm one of these guys that's constantly been on the verge of fucking up everything I ever built for myself.
Right.
I'm a bomb thrower. I'm a bridge burner.
Uh-huh.
I'm an angry Jew, man. And it's a miracle. It's a miracle that I'm sitting here with you and somebody still wants to hear what the fuck I think.
Right. No, I totally understand what you're saying. That's why I'm asking you, because I see what you're doing, and I see your career and your temperament, and just so the people know, like, me and Ron met, which the first time we met was at a golf charity thing, and we just hit it off. I was just a fan of yours. We were at this charity. I don't even play golf. Ron, I don't know. Listen, you had clubs, you had an outfit. I don't know, I don't know if that was
but I played just like you.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, I was hitting balls the wrong way. I don't know what the fuck was going on out there. But I've always felt this kinship to you and admiration because you're a little bit older than me. And
that's so great, because I'm such a fan of yours and have been, from afar. And who knew? I mean, who knew that, it's great when,
Who because I want to get into politics and Ron Perlman 2020. Just quick, you could rattle them off. Who have been actors over your career that you've been in front of that you were like, whoa, this person's fucking good? Like if you're playing like basketball, like obviously like, you know, NBA people, a lot of people talk about when they were on the court with Jordan for the first time. And it might not even be the famous ones. It could be the guy lesser known, but like like there's been a handful of times where I've been in front of actors where I'm like, oh shit. You know, like where you're seeing their skill level. Yeah.
No, I when I give it up to somebody, I become a ball of quivering jello. I mean, you know, I won't go into the Brando stories because they're all in the book. I'm recommending, if you're listening to the podcast and you haven't read my book yet, we don't have time to get into the Brando stories because they're really long.
I can't. Yeah.
But I became a massive quivering flesh in front of him.
I'm sure.
And
what was the film you worked with him on?
The Island of Dr. Moreau.
Right.
And
talk about a nut house. Apparently, that set was a fucking real nut house. So I guess any Brando set was a fucking
that was a nut house. But yeah, I was in the presence of Sinatra. I've been in the presence of Mickey Mantle, and these are guys that I stopped being me. I just start being like a loser, like I'm not worthy. And it turns out I come to find out afterward that Brando had seen my movies and really thought I was cool until he met me and he goes, "What the fuck is wrong with this dude? He's like a mess."
Right.
Same, you know, Sinatra. I could have spent time with him if I wasn't such a fucking, you know, like you're Frank and I'm nobody. You know?
I hear you though. I keep the same sort of distance. I'm like, I'd rather just keep it as like some people. I'm just like, you know, I've had, you know, ball players or actors. I'm just like, I'd rather just, I don't want to get to know you. I love you too much.
Yeah.
I don't even like, I just want to watch the painting. I don't want to be inside the fucking painting. You know what I mean? Like,
and that's
and some people are cool with sort of like being like, hey, I'm hanging out with here's Kobe. He's over here for waffles. I'm like, I'll watch him. I want to go see him on the court and that's it. Or you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. You know, every once in a while you have that fanboy thing. And then the guy turns out to bend over backwards to make you his equal.
Right.
And then the switch goes off and you start hanging out like you and me are hanging out now, where, you know, there's no chazara, you know.
Right.
Sean Connery, when I walked on the set with him for the first few days, I was stammering,
right.
You know? But he was so nice to me. And he took me aside and he said, "I see what you're doing here with this thing. I really want to, let's rehearse because I have some great ideas." And he kind of came down to me and said, we're going to do this differently now that I see what you're doing.
Yeah.
And he ended up being so easy to be around because he was so on my level.
Got you.
He went out of his way.
Got you.
That by the end of it, we were like, you know, I felt like, okay, we could be buds.
Right.
I wish I could have achieved that with Marlon, because I found out years later, you know, Marlon would have loved to have hung out with you. But I just couldn't go there.
Yeah, it's too far out.
Can you imagine though, like you know, going up to his hotel room? I'm on location in the far north Queensland, Australia. And on my hotel room is 626 and he's in 932. Go up and hang out with Marlon for 2-3 hours and swap stories like you and me are doing now. Can you imagine?
That's insane. With fucking Marlon.
And I missed out on it. I mean, you know, I got to hang out with him on set and I got to observe the shit out of him. But this kind of shit, you know, would have been nice.
Oh, fuck yeah. With Marlon Brando?
It would have been nice.
Yo, all soft-ass I Am Rapaport Stereo Podcast t-shirts are available at districtlines.com/I Am Rapaport. We got the 5-star Stereo Podcast tee, the I Am Rapaport Stereo Podcast zip-up and pullover hoodies, the full Iverson t-shirt, the Stickman t-shirt collection, the I Don't Fact Check, the Hard Body Karate t-shirt for men and women. Go to districtlines.com/I Am Rapaport. If you're into YouTube, subscribe to our page for exclusive content that we're going to be rolling out. Go to www.youtube.com/Rapaport. We got our own page on YouTube, people. All right. If you're into YouTube, subscribe to our page. Again, www.youtube.com/I Am Rapaport.
Welcome to Play It, a new podcast network featuring radio and TV personalities talking business, sports, tech, entertainment, and more. Play it at play.it.
All right, Ron, 2020, politics. I never thought that, me personally, I'll just say for myself, that I would be so invested emotionally, curious about politics. I want to hear all your takes, because you're on social media. I talk a lot of shit. You say like wild shit, and you're very politically, thoughtful, and there's obviously a lot of stuff going on. My first question in regards to politics is, does it frustrate you that, because people think like if you're an actor, you're a quote unquote celebrity, like we're living on some special actor planet, and like you Hollywood fucks, like it's raining outside, my breath stinks, I take shits, I take pisses, it's like we're regular guys. Ron's from Washington Heights. How do you feel about the people like, actors should shut the fuck up, you don't know anything, you don't know what the real world is like, you don't know what real world problems are, you're these liberal fucks, you don't know what you're talking about, and because you're so outspoken, I'm sure that's some of the blowback you get from Joe Schmo, who's very entitled, and I'm like, well, what, Joe Schmo, I respect you, but why is your opinion more value than mine? I have kids, I have a family, I have worries, how do you feel about that first part of it, and then just like where are you at politically, and have you always been this sort of politically charged and politically conscious? That's like a 7-part question.
Yeah, the accusation, you're an actor, keep your mouth shut, you're here to entertain, nobody cares about your opinion, that has evolved with me. It used to bother me a little bit when people would say that, and I would actually shut up for a minute.
Right.
In this new age, which is the most polarized I've ever seen, especially, and it's being exacerbated by Twitter.
Right.
By the fact that anybody has a platform now. Right. Like the biggest fucking loser in the world suddenly has a platform. Right. They have 3 followers, but they still can get on there and since the recent happenstances politically, yes, I have removed the chains. I have the gloves are off. Right. It's all bets are off now. Right. You have the fucking balls to say what right does an actor have to have an opinion, and you just put a fucking game show fucking clown in the White House. Right. Who couldn't fucking act his way out of a paper bag. He's a loser as a fucking entertainer. Right. He's a one-dimensional fucking loser. Right. And you have the balls to say to me, a classically trained actor?
A classically trained actor. May or may not be classically trained at this point. We might have pulled the fucking...
Who went from pussy to badass right in front of your eyes?
Exactly.
You have the balls to say that to me. So I shut those guys down. And
what's your normal shutdown for that? You're an actor, shut the fuck up, just entertain me.
I have fun with it.
Shut the fuck up, Hellboy. Put your Hellboy fucking face on. Yeah. You don't know what you're talking about.
No, I have fun with it. Everybody gets a completely unique, different response. Right. Depending on like how they worded it, I'll hit them back with. Right. And then there's occasionally, you'll see somebody who writes who kind of like tugs at your heartstrings, like they're so... Maybe you're on the spectrum. Maybe there's something wrong with you. And I'll try to be nice with them and go, hey... I'm just, I'll try to be gentle with them.
Do you find
but fools? Yeah, I will not suffer right now.
Do you go off?
Especially now.
Me too. My wife hates it.
But I am of the school that we have just stumbled into a very, very dark, very dangerous scenario here by handing over the reins of power to people who are not equipped.
Who out of the bunch scares you the most? Because the guy that makes me the most uncomfortable is this fucking Bannon guy. I feel like that guy really has a black heart.
No, Trump scares me the most because Trump is fine by, hanging out with guys like Bannon. Mm-hmm. Like he sought him out. Right. And you keep. And he elevated him. Right. He gave him a position where he can do some real damage to the average American, which is you and me. Right. And the thing about it that kind of breaks my heart the most is that his supporters, the people who voted for him, they're the ones that are probably going to get hurt the most.
How so?
Because he shits on a golden fucking toilet.
Right.
Are you kidding me?
Right.
You know, the shit that you sold these guys, the snake oil shit that you sold these guys during the election, how you are their guy.
Right.
You are their guy on a certain very sick, twisted level.
Right.
But it's not about improving their lives.
Right.
It's not going to improve their lives. If that's the scenario, people are in for some real eye-opening shit.
Do you think that the thing for me that I've talked a lot about, the thing that bothers me the most about how he got elected is not saying it, but throwing out that sentiment that make America great again? You know, that racial, you know, anti this, anti that sentiment that he never actually says, but he's put out there, like the make America great again. Like what's the again? The 60s, the 40s, the 30s.
Pre having a black guy in the White House.
Right. That's what the again is.
That's what it is.
And that's the thing to me that I think is the most unforgivable thing as of yet, because there's going to be more unforgivable things. But playing with that again, pre having a black guy in the White House, you know, with the women shit. And I'm not Mr. fucking feminist, but I don't give a fuck. You know, it's like this guy's made some of the like, he's so fucked up and he's playing with morale so bad that like certain people are going to get better because of him. They'll be like, I'm a fucking scumbag, but I'm not like this fucking guy. Like I've said some things, but this fucking guy is on another level. You know what I mean? Like he's really doing it, and he's in fucking power. You know, so that make America great again thing. The again is what bothers me.
Well, it's a dog whistle. You know, it's a
dog whistle.
And the people who
that's the best way to say it.
And the people who hear the whistle, you know, he's appealing to them on a very, very, very primal level. It's very emotional. It's very from the gut. And there's a resentment of so much of what the world is evolving into. Having the black guy as the leader of the free world is definitely probably the most offensive thing.
Right.
To a great many people.
Right.
But then there's all the stuff that goes with that, which is globalization. We now have to worry about fucking trade agreements with fucking China. We now have to worry about trade agreements. And so when he comes and says, you know, Mexicans are rapists and this and that, he's dog whistling. Every single thing he says is a dog whistle. Everything he says is a signal to these guys, like the shit you just are looking at. You know, I'm gonna fucking take us back to a time when we used to, you know. And then while he's saying that, somebody's getting punched in the back row, and he's saying, back in the day, you would have been fucking carried out on a fucking stretcher.
Right.
In the good old days. And those of us who react in the way that you and I react are outraged, but it turns out half the population thinks that's the coolest thing they've ever heard. And that's what we're grappling with right now.
Right.
Is that he managed to tap into something that has got these ramifications that they're very one-dimensional on one level. But when you're president of the United States and you're the most powerful fulcrum point on the planet, and every single thing that you do affects every fucking member of the planet Earth.
Right.
One-dimensional shit don't cut it.
Right.
And you're seeing how he's legislating, and
right.
You're seeing how he's wielding his power, and it's all one-dimensional.
Right.
It's all like shit that I used to do in the third grade in the schoolyard.
How so?
It's just fucking, I'll tell you how it's going to go, motherfucker.
Right.
You're going to fucking pay for the wall.
Right. No,
we're a sovereign country. We're not, we don't work for you.
Right.
We're not part of the Trump organization.
Yeah, there's no, I guarantee you, and you can, I've said, there's no, I think Trump knew the details, the business of that wall from the beginning, and I think he knows there's never going to be no fucking wall. I think he knew Mexico would say that. That's the blatant part of the dog whistle. There's no fucking wall going up. It's not happening. They're not building the fucking wall. They're not paying for the fucking wall. And we're not paying for the wall. There's going to be no fucking wall. And that's, I think, going to be one of the things that bites him in the ass. In 4 years, there's not going to be a fucking wall. It's not happening. There's no walls going up. When is it going to be built? Who's paying for it? How the fuck are you going to build a wall that big? Where's it go? What's it going to be called? The Trump wall?
But the thing of it is that he's stomping on what truly makes humanity noble and worth investing in and worth perfecting.
Right.
All of the beautiful, elegant, wonderful things that we learn, we're supposed to be learning in Sunday school, we're supposed to be learning when we're kids growing up, our civic responsibility, love thy neighbor, all having that requires having empathy, that requires understanding what it's like to walk in another guy's shoes, that requires he's stomping on every single thing that encompasses decency,
right,
and generosity,
right,
for this kind of robber baron, like, let me get as rich as I fucking can and take all my fucking people who only care about money with me.
Right.
And then sacrificing every other part of humanity.
Right.
And humanity is really, really delicate.
Right.
It's really complex.
Right.
And it's really something that needs to be dealt with a great deal of humility, which he's incapable of having any of.
Right.
He has no remorse.
Right.
About any of the really, truly ugly things he says.
Right.
Really true. I mean, you know, he's a danger.
Yeah.
And he's going to get a lot of people killed.
Right.
And it's going to be very, very sad when the chickens come home to roost. I'm not predicting anything. I'm just telling you, you cannot expect to behave this way and think there won't be any blowback.
Right.
You go around kicking everybody you meet in the fucking nuts.
Right.
You get into a fight with your three best allies in week one.
Right. Week fucking one. Australia?
Mexico?
What the fuck is that? Everybody loves Australians. What
they got kangaroos, man.
They got fucking kangaroos. I mean, what the fuck?
They're adorable. There's Aussies.
And you're starting shit with with Australia?
I mean, right?
And Australians are tough.
They're tough.
They're tough motherfuckers.
I'm sure this guy Turnbull is listening to the phone. He's actually probably looking at the phone going, he's laughing his ass off, saying, probably putting it on speakerphone to all the other people in the room going, listen to this fucking retard.
You're starting beef with fucking Australia and Mexico. Like, what?
Our next door neighbor.
The guy's not paying for the fucking weed. What did you think you were going to do? You thought you were going to just, like, you're paying for it. This isn't some fucking real estate business in New York. And, like, you know, there's some superintendent in one of your... I don't know what he thinks and what he thought.
You know, unfortunately, and, you know, the problem is that there were just too many of us who said it can't happen here.
Right.
Who said it's not possible. Every single thing that you could have pointed out about how ill-equipped he is for this particular job was pointed out in the course of the election, and pointed out, I thought, rather articulately, and yet we are here.
Right.
So Ron Perlman 2020 is the following.
No, yeah, go ahead. Where did Ron?
That's how I segue. That's my segue.
Go ahead.
On election day, November 7th. I go out and I play a round of golf. I get home around 5 p.m. LA time, which is 8 p.m. New York time.
How was your round of golf, by the way?
It was pretty good. I had a nice day. I was with some people I love, my buddy Dan Lauria, and a couple other guys. I'm shouting out Dan Lauria on your show. He's one of the most beautiful. You should have him on.
All right, I would love
He's one of the purest, most beautiful. He's a veteran. He was a U.S. Marine during the Vietnam days.
Okay.
He is as pure a guy as you're ever going to meet.
How was your stroke that day, though? Do you remember how your stroke was?
I usually suck, but every once in a while I'll have a day where I'm relaxed and I'm hitting the ball good. I had a good day that day.
Okay.
I get home, I put on MSNBC, which I normally do, and I'm at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and the polls on the East Coast are just starting to close. I start to see patterns that I don't like. And I have the news on for literally 6 minutes. And I immediately turned the channel to Turner Classic Movies because I couldn't watch it. I kept the TV on Turner Classic Movies for the next 4 hours, but I would check Twitter every once in a while, and I would see, holy shit, Florida just went to him. Holy shit, Pennsylvania. And I'm checking Twitter, and I'm checking people's reactions, the people I follow, but I'm watching Turner Classic Movies. Around 9:30 LA time, I finally turned back to the news. And they're just announcing Ohio. And now he needs places like fucking Wisconsin.
Right.
and these states he's never going to get. And I began at 9:30 at night LA time. This is about 2.5, 3 hours before they actually called the election. I began to go through the 5 stages of grief. The last stage of which is acceptance. And I got through the entire 5 stages, including acceptance. And I'm saying Donald Trump is going to be my president. And then I said, fuck this. I started again. And I started my second cycle of the 5 stages of grief. I got to anger, which is like the second or third phase.
Right. That's a tough one for you, right?
I got to anger, and that's when I took the picture of myself, a selfie with my hand over my heart saying, I'm using my immense Twitter following to announce my candidacy in 2020.
Right.
Because I decided at that moment that this was a reality that couldn't just be accepted.
Right.
This was a reality that needed to be dealt with in a way that I could never conceive of placing myself.
Right.
Candidacy for the presidency of the United States?
Right.
I don't want to be fucking president.
Right.
Who in their right mind would want to be? But that's better than sitting here going, I have no choice.
Right.
And to this day, and I vowed to myself and my few people around me that this was kind of half a joke, but that I was never going to stop running for president until I saw somebody better that was more prepared to like kick some fucking ass than me. And so far, nobody has emerged.
So what has been the
I'm
reaction?
still running.
So
I have no campaign pledges whatsoever.
No pledges yet?
I would
got
actually
$5 for you today, Ron.
I'm talking about. I need money to put in the meter.
Yeah, no, I got you.
Okay.
I'll pay for the meter. Okay, I'll pay for the meter, and I got $5 to the campaign.
Pay for gas and tolls.
I got that.
Okay.
I got that for a week. Gas and tolls for the campaign pledge.
That's fantastic. So you heard it here first on the Michael Rapaport, I Am Rapaport podcast. I finally got my first campaign contribution. This is a historic moment.
Now, what's been the reaction in 3.5 years, 3 years? Probably no one's going to emerge. People are going to be going, we want Ron. We want Ron. We want Ron. That's going to be the chant, the first one.
If that's the case,
then what do we do?
You got me.
And would like how far would you take this? Like if people are like, we won't. You have like 1 million followers on Facebook. You got 300 something people. No one's going to say we don't want Ron. Everybody loves Ron fucking Perlman. What are we going to do in 2 years, 2.5 years, if shit isn't like figured out? There's not a viable young or older person that we could all stand behind, and they're like, we want Ron. Like how serious would you'd go?
I would go.
And how would you deal with? Because I look at Trump. One of the things that I have to say that I like about Trump is the New Yorkness. And but just because I relate to it, I've seen he's like a 3-card Monty guy.
Right.
When Times Square was 3-card Monty Central. Right. He's a New York shit talker.
I lost some money back then.
We're all New York shit. If you're a New Yorker, you're a New York shit talker. That's the thing that I see in myself about him. He's a New York shit talker, but he's also a fucking punk, and he's also a rich New York shit talker.
Right.
I mean, his whole life was silver spoon. Everything was given to him. He's a New York shit talker. You're up there debating him, and he's talking. Oh, what is this actor like? Would you be able to
He cannot. I would have him in 5 minutes.
How?
I'd have him. I'm smarter than he is. I'm slicker than he is. I'm as fearless as he is.
Right.
And I'm way smarter than he is. And I would. My New York thing, when I discovered this was a big moment in the maturing process of yours truly.
Big Ron Perlman.
I'm used to guys. This is a New York. New Yorkers are very provocative.
Right.
People will randomly come over to you in New York and start fucking with you, and they have a mechanism by which they know when they own you.
Right.
And a lot of New Yorkers are just out to like own motherfuckers.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And I got owned for years and years in New York by becoming, fodder for the, like victims of these guys who, hey, that looks like a big fucking fat loser. Let's fuck with him for a minute.
Right.
And they would, I got owned enough so that I one day I said, whatever degree this motherfucker is going to come at me with, I'm going to top him by 1 degree.
Right.
I'm going to be 1 degree crazier than him.
Right.
And the minute I started doing that, they would run like cockroaches.
I got you.
I could out fucking Trump
Right.
in a heartbeat.
Right.
I would own that motherfucker. There's no little Ron, little Marco, Lion Ted, come on, are you kidding me?
Right, are you fucking kidding me?
I shit through better hair than his.
Right.
Are you kidding me?
Right, you got.
That's what I.
Look at that fucking mane of hair have.
But I mean,
But I know what you mean, because it's like you think about like name calling, and like when he was up there shitting on everybody and Hillary, I was like, see this? Like I wanted to be the mouthpiece for her.
Right.
To just shut this motherfucker down.
And I'm convinced that the weakness in Hillary was that indefinable thing that you can't like put a quantify, called pizzazz.
Right.
It's the same thing with actors.
Right.
Sometimes you look at an actor and you go, that's a very capable, very fine performance.
Right. Right.
And then you look at somebody who's like, holy shit, I have no idea what the fuck this guy's going to do next.
Right. Right.
And you cannot stop looking at
right.
them. Hillary just didn't have that pizzazz.
Right.
She said all the right shit.
He has the pizzazz.
He was a bright, shiny object.
And he's able to talk off the cuff better than any of them.
So if that's the level upon which you dominated the Democratic candidate, I got you.
Exactly.
I got you.
You know what I'm saying,
now let's
though?
talk about policy.
Right. Right.
Let's get past all of the fucking schoolyard shit, because
right.
I'll own you,
right.
motherfucker.
But you have to, because he did that to them. He's talking shit. He did this, and that's the thing that he making people laugh, and he's like up there, and I'm like, this guy's a fucking 3-card Monte fucking hustler.
Right.
He's talking bullshit.
Right.
Like, what the fuck are you talking? Like, even now, he's like, he says something. He's like, well, back then, I'm not sure when it was, but I'm like, you say the date, motherfucker. Like, finish your sentence. Like, because I talk shit too.
Yeah, but if he talked that shit in my neighborhood,
right, people
just would have gone, "You ain't even funny, man."
Right,
and they would have walked away.
Right.
You got to at least be funny.
Right.
You're gonna talk shit. You got to it's got to be some wit to it.
Right.
It can't just all be hate.
Right.
Like spewing like. So, that's the part of it that yeah. What else do you want to know? You
got your book's out?
I wrote a book about 2 years ago, a memoir.
Okay.
And not only is it a memoir, but it's a little bit of a manifesto. There's a lot of anger in it.
Uh-huh.
There's a lot of, we the people motherfuckers with fists clenched.
Right.
But what it mostly is it's a letter to my children who are artists. And it's a letter. So what I do is I chronicle, my life, my trajectory, the things that influenced me and gave me my aesthetic. And I'm talking about being alive for some of Humphrey Bogart.
Right.
A lot of Jimmy Cagney.
Right.
Some of Gary Cooper.
Right.
All of Frank Sinatra.
Right.
All of Bob Dylan.
Right.
I'm talking about when I walk through all of this dude up here. There's an amazing. You guys can't see this, but there's an amazing photograph of Ali and Angelo Dundee on Michael's wall here. And I know I followed you on Twitter and Instagram when we lost Muhammad last year. Nobody was more prolific at capturing what we had lost than you. I mean, you. I reposted your shit all the time because you said what I was hoping I could say.
Thank you.
About that guy.
Thank you.
I don't know what I was just talking about.
You were talking about the book. And you were talking about what's in the book.
Yeah. But I mean, not only did I have all these heroes, but I lived in a world that was governed differently than it is now because all of the studios and all of the networks, when I was a kid coming up, were owned by individuals.
Right.
There's nothing that's owned by an individual now. It's all corporately owned.
Right.
So making a movie at Paramount,
right,
you're like line 438 on a corporate ledger sheet.
Right.
Making a movie for Adolf Zukor at Paramount,
right,
there was no ledger sheet. It was one thing.
Right.
We make movies.
Right, right.
That's what we do. We do it because we love movies.
Right.
We do it because we want to change the world.
Right.
One movie viewer at a time.
Right.
So the difference between my influences and what led to me having my value system as an actor were different than my kids coming into the world. Their influences are, they have no heroes.
Right.
No heroes whatsoever.
Right.
There's nobody bigger than life.
Right.
There's no Sinatras. There's no Muhammad Ali's.
Right.
You know, I mean, thank God for Conor McGregor.
Right.
You know?
No, I hear you.
And they have this internet, and they're stealing music. They're not paying for anything.
There's no, yeah.
They're stealing the New York Times. They're not even paying for that.
Right.
And and they're looking down in their phones all the time. They don't even look up and see a blue fucking sky.
Right.
So I'm trying to write a letter to them as to like, here's what I saw, and here's how it made me think about things, and here's what a privilege it is to fucking stand on the shoulders. And I had like 4 pages, single space, of the names
right.
of the motherfuckers that were walking the earth that led to my aesthetic.
Right.
And I said, if you don't think you're standing on the shoulders of greatness, if you think you're inventing anything for the first time, and you think you can swagger over that shit,
right.
fuck you, suck my dick.
Uh-huh.
You are part of something great here.
Right.
And never forget it. And that's why when I come across a motherfucker who doesn't know how to collaborate and doesn't know how to respect other artists, I'm ready to kill that motherfucker.
Right.
You know?
Right.
That's all I'll say on that.
Where's the book?
I should have brought you a copy.
But where can people find the book? Because I need the Brando stories.
If you go to my pages, the link to where you can get it on Amazon is right on there.
What's the title of it?
Easy Street, The Hard Way.
Hand of God, second season's coming.
March 10th.
Which is your show on Amazon.
Yeah.
You keep fucking going.
Yeah.
You're getting
miracle.
better with age. You're getting better opportunities with age, although you've had a fucking run for like the last 30 years that I truly admire. You're one of a kind, Ron. I'm sincere when I say this. What you've done as an actor and the space that you've carved out for yourself is unduplicatable. I'm going to Aiello you right now. You big fucking silverback Jew. You son of anarchy. I got fucking Hellboy in here with me right now. Breaking my fucking balls. You never come across Danny Aiello in your years?
I played baseball in the Broadway show league against Danny.
Okay.
They used to call him Over the Trees Danny because he hit the ball so far.
He could hit?
Oh, he was a power hitter.
Can I fucking hit? I hit the fucking ball out of Central Park. Rapaport's asking me, ask fucking Ron if I could fucking hit. I swatted that fucking thing down 5th fucking Avenue. You cocksuckers, you.
And by the way, Danny Aiello III, who was a stuntman
yes.
who passed away,
yes.
he died young. He was always my double whenever I worked in New York.
Right.
And he was a great double for me. We were the same exact size. We had the same coloring.
Right.
He was a beautiful fucking guy. So when you get next to Danny again, tell him I miss his son so bad.
I absolutely will. I'm just such a fan of his, and the Aielloing just came out of, because, you know, like, to me,
the best thing, though, is when you Aiello and ask him to Aiello back.
Right.
And he can't do it.
Right. He's just like, oh, I don't get him. I'm like, I get him going. Because he's such a New York guy. All right, and also I'm going to give you a soft ass Make Podcast Great T-shirt again, and you're the first person to bestow, because Ron is a golfer. I say that with serious air quotes. He's a golfer, but I got the Stick Man, I Am Rapaport golf shirt, the pullover in Hellboy red for you.
And I would never, ever, ever cop to being a stick man, but to be in the presence of one is an honor.
Yeah, fucking Ron. This is the I Am Rapaport Stereo Podcast. We're done. This is going to be so good.